Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Do What You Love. If you are looking for unique strategies to live a more creative and fulfilling life, then you are in the right place. I am so excited that you're joining us today because we get to have really interesting conversations with cool people that are living their creative life, that are doing things out into the world that are interesting, that are fun, and that they really enjoy doing, that they really love to do. And so today I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Evan Snow. He is a local arts advocate, community builder, and creative entrepreneur. He's the founder of Choose 954, a social movement created to cultivate culture and community in Broward County here in South Florida. And that's where we're located. And he's worked really hard to create new initiatives for the community to highlight local creatives. And he also wrote his first book this year, Learning to Choose. So I know many of you have a dream of writing a book. And so we get to talk about that as well. So Evan, thank you so much for joining the conversation today.
Glad to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So I always like to start out with first, in 30 seconds or less, how would you describe who you are and what you do?
I'm an arts advocate, community builder, creative entrepreneur, yogi, and a placemaker that just became insanely passionate about pursuing my passions and wanting to make my community a better place to live and not just a better place to vacation. And thankfully, I've been able to turn those passions into a profession and doing what I love.
That's so awesome. So tell us, what is your definition of a creative life?
So a creative life is being creative, creating things that you want to see, do, and experience in the world. For me, it initially started with food. And I started off as a food blogger, wanting to experience food that was created, and culinary arts is an art form. And then I pivoted that love and interest of food to arts and culture, which does encompass food, of course. And now I create content, stories, podcasts, platforms, events, initiatives. So creating, living a creative life can mean many different things to many different people. I found a way, almost as a creative curator, a creative influencer, to live my creative life without being an artist or a painter myself.
So you were a blogger. When did you start blogging? I feel like that's like such an old school thing that people started like way back when.
It was back in 2014 in the early stages of Foursquare. If you remember, it was like Vimeo. And someone told me about it, a woman named Molly at a training seminar on our break. And she was telling me that she was getting paid to write articles to get cool stuff for free. And it was very Rob Report-esque. So I kind of made a mental bookmark of it. And I was going to cool restaurants and taking pictures of food and posting them on Foursquare, but I wasn't really doing anything with it. And my friends would say that they like the places that Snow stops at. I go by my last name. And I received some inspiration in the form of an aha moment to encourage me to pursue my dreams, passions, goals. And one of them at that time was creating Snow Stops food blog to show all my friends and family all of these cool restaurants that they didn't know existed. And that initially paved the way for Choose 954 and doing what I love.
So how long did you blog and what was that experience? See, I find it so interesting to hear people's journeys because you find something, especially on the creative side of things, right? Whether it's like starting to write or start a podcast or a YouTube channel or different things, and you start to meet other people, you see, oh, this is actually a thing. This is something that people can do. And some people do it for a living and some people do it just for fun. But what was that journey like, and how did it really push you to start your movement around Broward County and really focus on building community down there?
Sure. So I started the food blogging thing, and long story short, food blogging got me invited to go to events like tastings and pairings. Going to those events got me to meet marketing and PR people, and meeting marketing and PR professionals made me realize, well, I could do events too. My love of food and food blogging took me to Memphis, Tennessee for the World Championship Barbecue Festival during their Memphis in May month-long celebration, where I saw the impact of a social movement called Choose 901 that was part of the culture, was part of the conversation in Memphis at a time and in a place where social media was not really that prevalent back in the day there in 2015. And coming back from that trip, seeing the impact of the social movement in a place that was not very progressive, really motivated and inspired me to create a similar platform for my community to act as a megaphone to extend the reach of all these cool, initially restaurants, but then artists and venues and businesses and small businesses that I was discovering and establishing relationships with and supporting. And I just felt if more people that I grew up with in Coral Springs and in Broward County, the 954, knew about all these cool things that were really just beginning to happen at this time, it would give them a reason to choose the 954. So I started Choose 954 before the Art Walk in Flagler Village in June 2016. And, really only had limited experience with the food blogging, but that limited experience was enough to propel me to create this platform and craft it in a way as a social movement and a media marketing platform that's allowed me now to do what I love and support the people that I love supporting in the process.
See, it's all about starting. Like, you just never know what's going to happen when you start pursuing something that you find interesting. Like, this was just something that you found interesting. What do you feel like is different today? Because obviously today, as people might be listening to this thinking, yeah, this is just normal, right? Everybody has a blog and everyone has a podcast and everyone has YouTube, like all the things that people have now. How do you see what you were doing before and how has it really evolved? And what are your thoughts now on content marketing versus when you started doing it with blogging?
Well, it's definitely a lot more easy to get involved now, I would say, for sure. There's definitely like turnkey solutions and platforms that really, back when I started, you really just kind of had to make a page on, an easy website builder, and they weren't as easy as they are now with like Squarespace and Wix and all the new things. And even like little things that we kind of take for granted, like hashtags or like collaborating on posts or boosting posts, weren't really the case back then. It definitely is much easier now. But to your point, the only way to start is to start. You don't need, a 100-page business plan. You don't need to go to a course. There's YouTube University, there's Motiversity, there's a lot of free resources available. But a lot of people get hung up with the what if, imposter syndrome, mental masturbation, and all these different things that really prevent them from, taking action to achieve their goals and their dreams. And I'm here as a testament, and you're here as a testament to tell people, if you are genuine, if you're authentic, and if you do want to pursue your passion and do whatever it is in the world that is important or relevant to you and your life, your family, and your community, you could do that. And you could start with a cell phone and a hashtag, as I did with Choose 954 and Facebook live streams. And, you could craft this life that you want to live.
So you mentioned imposter syndrome, which I actually wrote a little bit about in my book. I'm curious, maybe you have it in yours as well, because it's something that shows up all the time for creators. Well, first of all, what does that mean for you, and did you experience imposter syndrome throughout your kind of creative journey and what you're building?
I did. My father always told me, though, this saying, act as if, and it was from a movie, but, act as if, you've been here before. Act as if you're supposed to be here. Act as if you are experienced. And then that'll hopefully resonate with people instead of you being uncertain. I have struggled with imposter syndrome. It did take me a little while to build my confidence, to build my presence, to build my profile, my cachet within the community, doing the work that I was doing. I wasn't always a fluid or confident, comfortable speaker. And I almost actually didn't write this book. I almost actually didn't start sharing this story. There was many years where I kept telling my friends and people that were encouraging me to do this, like, oh no, I'll get to it later. Like I used to say, like, when I have more established. And fortunately, I've been able to establish quite a bit with my business partner in the first 7 years of my entrepreneurial journey. In all reality, probably more than 99% of people are ever going to be able to accomplish between all the things that we've accomplished. That, what do I really have to wait for? What do I need to get to a mythical 10-year mark to make me accomplished enough to speak and write a book. And once I finally overcame that and, realized, experience in years are really just numbers, that certainly allowed me to start this process of writing the book, starting to flesh out my story, the learning lessons that I've acquired from making a series of choices that initially started stepping outside my comfort zone that allowed me to unlock my hidden potential. And I'd like to think now, if I was able to overcome imposter syndrome, if I was able to overcome the doubts and the what ifs, and if I was able to step outside my comfort zone and craft this life that I love and doing what I love now, anybody can unlock their hidden potential and do what they love as well.
So what's a first step? What is a first step for someone to unlock that hidden potential? Because I think so many people have this idea of, I know I'm meant for more. I know that there's something inside of me that just, if someone would just see that brightness in me and kind of introduce me to or invite me to do something, when, obviously if we were waiting to be invited, we'll be waiting a really long time because it's just not the way that it works. And so what advice would you give to someone who's like, Evan, I have this really great idea. I have this movement. I want to build something online. I want to build something locally. I mean, that's the one thing that's really interesting about you that I love, is that you have decided to really go local and to support your local community. And I think especially today, we really need that with so many people that are struggling with just feeling very lonely, and we're stuck behind screens all the time, especially these past few years, to really have a community where you're like, no, we're getting together like in person to be able to see each other and hug each other and handshakes and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really remarkable what you are creating. And I think for some people, that is a kind of a more interesting way for them to create community versus online. So for someone who wants to build something online or offline, what is that one step that they can take to unlock their potential?
I love when this question comes up. It's easy to plug Simon Sinek's Start With Why, but that is a tried and true method, one of the best books, one of the most watched TED Talks of all time. And as I
He's
kind of
just a really cool person. Can you get him down to talk at one of your events?
Yeah, $750,000 we asked, and that was actually to do it virtually during COVID. And it was over $1 million in person, but he earned it. He deserved it, but he started with why. And if you haven't listened to the TED Talk, I certainly encourage you. But when you know your why, when you know your North Star, when you know your guiding principles, when you're doing something that you love, ideally, genuinely, with integrity, for the right reasons, maybe altruistic if it's community focused. Obviously everybody has to feed their family. So, unless you're an independently wealthy person that could just go around doing whatever you want to do willy-nilly without having to worry about money, you're probably going to have to do something that will allow you to do what you love and craft the life that you want to live. But another guy, another quote, another inspirational person for entrepreneurs or dreamers is the guy I'm actually wearing a shirt, Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about what resonated with me initially was don't do stuff you hate, but you can find very interesting hobbies. He's been a big proponent in encouraging people to get into flipping and going to garage sales and finding out items that you can resell on eBay. And if that's something that's of interest to you and that's going to give you the freedom to craft the life that you want to live. Or another thing he talks about is like baseball cards and collectibles and how there's money to be made there. If you want to just speak about, being a mother, there's mommy blogs out there. There's so many different avenues for you to do whatever is passionate and relevant and important in your life, as long as you start with your why and take that first step outside your comfort zone and realize, there's going to be more steps you're going to have to take outside your comfort zone, but everybody started at zero and everybody started with that first step. You just got to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to take it. You deal with a lot of artists. You work with a lot of artists. Which I just so love. In fact, it was so fun. I took a creative writing class yesterday. at the local library here in West Palm Beach, and I did find out that apparently Broward, your library, has a ton of really great resources for writers and things like that on the creative side. So I'll have to come down and visit you for something down there, because she was she was promoting some of the stuff that you guys were doing, which is interesting. But it was so fun to be in this creative writing class, and I was able to. I met this guy who shared a little bit of his work, and I looked at him and I said, "You're a poet, aren't you? I can tell you read that like you were at a poetry slam." And so I got to make some new friends, and I really just have a love of people that are so crafted in whether they do murals, like just like the murals that are at different cities, and or glass blowing or art or whatever it is that they're creating is just so fascinating to me, probably because that is not my skill set. And so I so appreciate people that do, but I appreciate artists because talk about the creative process. They have to go through that all the time, right? Just like consistently putting stuff out into the world, and some people like it and some people don't. And so when you're having conversations with artists and you're building this community with them, what are some of the conversations look like? Like, what are they talking about? What are they sharing? What are some of the challenges? Like, I would love to kind of get a little inside scoop of that.
Sure. Everybody struggles with, writer's block, creative blocks, finding new creativity, finding new sources of inspiration. I struggle with it as well. You can't keep going back to the same well. You need to find new wells and new sources of inspiration. One thing that has worked for me is just face-to-face human interaction and connection. And I've created some events and some platforms to support doing that and fostering that. And one we actually have coming up this Sunday, I do it quarterly, is a potluck for artists. And I'm doing it at our new Zero Empty Spaces location across from the Galleria Mall in Fort Lauderdale, but it's open to any artist. But we have artists come, bring a dish for 5 or 6 people. Not everybody eats everything. We go around the room, we introduce ourselves, talk a little bit about our medium practice, what we're working on. And then I generally put in a different prompt and question every potluck. So when it comes time to, Thanksgiving around holiday time, I'll say, what are you grateful for? If we do one in December, I'll say, what are you looking forward to, in the next year, in the upcoming year? And just being at the table, face to face, hearing your contemporaries, peers, neutral third-party strangers, which oftentimes end up becoming friends and collaborators, that's been super insightful for artists, just to, realize everybody has their own unique struggles, challenges, insights, inspirations, so on and so forth. And I love the, kind collaboration, resource sharing, idea sharing. So that one has definitely taught me a lot about the creative process, how artists overcome creative blocks. And then the one that was most profound for me, I attended a monthly breakfast lecture series, a mini TED Talk, where I received my aha moment from Alexa Carlin, the founder of the Women in Power Expo that you know. And now I continue to host that monthly breakfast lecture series called Creative Zen, which we coincidentally do at the Alvin Sherman Library on the campus of Nova Southeastern University, where my business partner is president of the board. And we do that to connect, engage, and inspire our community, our creative community, our broader community, one Friday morning a month, every second Friday morning of the month, because you never know who's going to be sitting there in the audience yearning for that little nugget of inspiration, as I was, and how that could change the course of their life, their community, the art world, or the world beyond. So I love bringing in local people to share their thought-provoking, inspiring story. And actually, I think a woman you might know, she's a writing coach and a fascinating woman, Dr. Gabby from Third Wave. She spoke at our event last month, and I've been doing this for 7 years now. It was the most mind-blowing talk on one of my favorite topics, psychedelics, that really opened my mind and opened a lot of people's minds and opened NSU's minds. So yeah, I love these face-to-face human interactions, connections, and ways to get new inspiration and ideas.
What was one thing that stands out most from her talk that you remember?
She really broke down how not just the integration aspect of a post-psychedelic experience, which is obviously very pivotal and vital, but even some of the pre-preparation leading up to it that I think a lot of people don't take into consideration. I did opt to choose to include how I learned to choose something called Boiler Room, which is a music event I discovered on my first psychedelic journey on psilocybin mushrooms, magic mushrooms, and how that's had a profound impact on my life, my creativity, my development as a human, as a person. And then when I discovered yoga and I learned to choose yoga a few years ago and integrated yoga into my psychedelic journey process and preparation, that's actually something she recommended that I really hadn't been cognizant of. I was just kind of doing it. And then when she recommended it, I saw it clicked with other people in the room, and just thought it was really cool that if you integrate these tried and true practices, they help you unlock so much more within you on these pivotal, mind-opening, life-changing psychedelic journeys and experiences, which have had a profound impact on my life, many people's lives. Unfortunately, as soon as the FDA reschedules and reclassifies these naturally occurring substances, they'll have the impact on so many more people's lives and have a whole mental health renaissance and revolution that I'm really looking forward to happening.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like, I listen to some of Tim Ferriss's work when he talks about all that kind of stuff. He gets really into it. So you wrote a book and Learn to Choose. So tell us about that. You said you almost didn't write it. What was your writing experience? Like, what did that look like, writing your first book?
So thankfully, I do have some people that believe in me, that support me, some friends, and a gentleman came into my life, Ernesto Mandowski, who had written some books. He's a former creative Zen speaker as well, systems optimization specialist and expert, really big on productivity and process, and a system called Notion. And I was just really developing a relationship with him, and asked him to be my book writing accountability partner, just to make the time to go and sit down and to write together. He was working on his second book. I was working on my first book. Accountability is a big thing for me. So just, setting that time, dedicating that time and energy to writing, putting, pen to paper was very powerful. And then thankfully, with aid from some of my psychedelic journeys and reflections, I really processed and, went through a lot of the experiences that I had that, allowed me to get to this point in life and business and community and entrepreneurship. And I know if I'm a regular guy, and I'm still a regular guy that was able to make these choices, if I could share not only that story and all those stories, but the learning lessons accompanied with those stories, that it's going to help other people. And I genuinely, as you can begin to see, and as you've seen, because we've known each other for a few years now, I genuinely love helping people. I genuinely love connecting people. I genuinely love motivating and inspiring other people to do whatever they want to do, unlock their hidden potential, connect with the community, support an artist, get support, whatever it may be. That's my oxygen. That's my why. So I really wanted to share that in this format of a book, which books, are very effective. I could speak, on this podcast, I could speak at Creative Mornings, I could speak wherever, and, it's effective. But I think when people read it in a book and know that someone took the time to, work on a book, work with an editor, I worked with a coach, a proofreader, a formatter, it adds a level of, I guess, like credibility or validity to it. So it was a very interesting process. I'm really grateful for everybody that's bought the book and left a review and will leave a review. I'm very grateful for everybody that's in the book. And I, left a lot of nuggets. My daily practices, morning rituals and routines, my vitamins and supplements, which are very important to me as a type 1 diabetic that prioritizes my health and wellness and self-care, and also some, really good recommendations for other books, Start With Why, other podcasts like the Huberman Lab podcast, and some other best practices that I think will help other people unlock their hidden potential to make a bigger impact in the world, which I love.
Yeah. And how long did it take to write the book? Because it's a process, right? I mean, I love that you knew that you had to hold yourself accountable. Like that's the biggest thing, right? To sit down and write is really, it can be challenging because it's not easy. I mean, writing and it's one thing to say something on a video really quick, and it's quite another to take the time to it's I always use that quote, and it's attributed to multiple different people on the internet, but it's if I would have written a shorter note, I just didn't have the time. It's like when you have to really think about what are the ideas that are so impactful, they belong in the book. And I don't know about you, but when I wrote mine, it was almost like I had this whole other document of really great information that I wanted to share, but it didn't make sense in the book. Like I had to take it away. And so it's that phrase that I forget who coined it, but it's the kill your darlings. You have to be comfortable killing your darlings. And as a writer, that can be really challenging because you're like, no, I want this in there, but it might be for another book or something else. And so so that's awesome that you knew to get a coach to hold you accountable. I think so often we do need, and that's why people hire coaches, right? Like we need a coach to hold us accountable to whatever it is, whether you want to write a book, have a business, get fit, whatever those pieces are. If you haven't done it yourself and it's been something that you've talked about forever, to have a coach to really help you to actually do the work and hold you accountable to doing the work is really huge. So what was that time frame like from like this idea? Well, you had the book idea for a while, but when you actually sat down and said, okay, I'm really going to do this, how long did it take?
It was about 2 years. I don't want to say I procrastinated. I am kind of busy with a lot of projects and businesses and other things that take precedent, understandably.
It wasn't a priority. That's all. That's it.
Correct. Looking back on it, I probably should have scheduled more time and been more firmer, but it happened the way it happened. It came out beautiful time, aligned with the 5-year anniversary of Creative Zen, the monthly breakfast lecture series that I host every second Friday morning of the month. I spoke at the 5-year anniversary. I shared my story for the first time, which led into the book. We had the widest attendance we ever had, over 100 people for that event, which really was a beautiful thing. All my closest friends and family, men's circle, mentors, most of the people that were mentioned in the book were there. But the 2 years probably could have been condensed a little shorter. I did take some time to go to my friend's yoga resort in Costa Rica and block out a good little chunk there. And similar to what you mentioned, I had a lot of other stuff that I could have put that I chose not to, that I opted probably for a future book. The book writing coach that I engaged, God bless her, she really keyed me in on leaving out the negative, which I'm glad I did, because I don't think I really wanted to tell all of those stories. But maybe, to your point, maybe in a future book. But for this, it's really the 7 key choices I made that, they might have seemed very easy, but, I kind of go through those processes. I accompany each chapter with learning lessons. And then just some other things like, learning to choose helping others, which wasn't really like a one-step choice that I made, but just like some of the thought processes, some of how altruism and helping others was ingrained in me and my DNA and my genes from my parents, who met through Landmark education, Landmark Forum, S training, and their, self-help, personal development junkies within their own regard. So I just kind of connect some of those dots. And I think it resonates well. And fortunately, I'm starting to receive some pretty good feedback and compliments that it is helping people. So I'm really grateful for that.
Oh, good. Well, we are grateful that you wrote the book and put it out into the world, and it's making an impact. And I always like to ask our guests one last question, because we got to take action, right? It's one thing to just like talk through and listen to somebody talk about their story, but we have to take action. So what is one activity that someone can do in 10 minutes or less to live a more creative life?
Well, I'm going to give you 2, but the first one in the 10 minutes is meditate. Meditation, mindfulness, tried and true method, free videos on YouTube. free access in person, depending on the community that you live in. If you want to find it, you can find it. Creative Zen includes a free guided meditation from my coach, teacher, and guru, Chloe Ravel, the Gemini Rising, to help everybody get in a Zen state before the speaker shares their story. So meditation and, countless benefits in terms of creativity, getting in the creative process. A lot of artists, do share now that they meditate. But in terms of the taking action part, it's not a 10-minute process, but we just relaunched something called Axen Club, AXEN, Action and Zen. It's a goal-setting accountability mini mastermind group for free. We meet bi-weekly every other Tuesday at a cool art studio called Art in Oakland Park. And essentially, you can come with a goal, dream, idea, passion project, startup, or none of those things. We give you a workbook, ask you to write down 150 life goals, and really just putting the pen to paper really kind of gets that creative process going. And then you take one of those really pressing goals and you bring it into breakout groups, and the power of the brain trust in the room at the table of neutral third-party strangers that you're sitting with will help you smart your goals, make them specific, measurable, action-oriented, results-driven with a time constraint. What are 3 things you can do in the next 2 weeks to help you achieve that goal? And that group has yielded, thousands of success stories with people taking action, achieving their dreams, achieving their goals, starting their vision, starting their business, starting their passion project, whatever it may be. And it's a free thing. And if you don't do your action items, if you don't achieve your goal, nobody's waving their finger at you saying, oh, no, you're wrong, you didn't do it. And it's a beautiful community. I met some of my best friends, changed so many people's lives. The gentleman that started it has helped grow it in other cities and other states. He's done it altruistically for free. I can't recommend it highly.
This is only in person. This happens like in Broward County.
Broward, and then there is one in Miami, and then there are some in some other states, but it is in person. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So, the action item that anyone can do immediately is the meditation. Yeah. The other piece, if you're in Broward, where's the best way for people to connect with you, find you, and of course, get a copy of your book?
Learningtochoose.com. Most contact info there. You can look us up, Zero Empty Spaces. I handle all the socials. If you go to my personal Instagram at EvanSnow13, I have my link tree on there, which has links to most of the things that I'm involved in for additional context. I'm an open book. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Come join us at one of these free events in the community. I'm just, once again, a regular guy that just got passionate about pursuing my passions and wanting to help others unlock and pursue theirs. So any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear what you thought about the book or the Creative Zen Talk or Zero Empty Spaces or anything. I love feedback. I love connecting. I love community. And I love what you're doing. And I appreciate your support and having me on the show here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for connecting and for being a guest today. It's always lovely to chat with you. And yeah, I'll have to make my way down to Broward and be part of some of these really cool creative concepts you have going on over there.
Amen. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Evan. I will talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Sure.